Welcome back to The Real with Joseph Lappin. I am Joseph Lappin. Hope you guys having a great Friday afternoon. Welcome into the room. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate that on the way in here. And shout out to all new subscribers. Appreciate you guys, everybody supported the channel and who's hit the subscribe button in the last 2 weeks. We've had an uptick in some of the subscribers, so appreciate you guys for commenting. And please like, subscribe, and share as always. And also hype this video as well. New feature on YouTube or helps promote this video more in the algorithms, which helps take this channel a long way for myself and my guy Mike too when his show comes back, Professional Fan, for football season here. Gonna be coming up here shortly. So yeah, stay tuned and appreciate you guys. But and shout out to all you guys. But I hope you guys having a great day. But let's get to it because there's a lot of stuff to unpack today, and I don't want to be too long. So let's get to it. LeBron, yesterday when we talked about LeBron, kind of do a little recap. So right now, where do I want to start with this? So actually, no, let's start here. Yesterday when we left off, the show yesterday was about how the streets were hot, right? And the streets were hot, and a lot of the rumors around the streets were that LeBron possibly that he was coming back to Cleveland. Now, obviously, right now LeBron's down in Puerto Rico. There's a picture, obviously, he was spotted with Draymond down there with his boy Sean Cotton from high school, the whole thing. Emmett Golden came on ESPN Cleveland yesterday, and he shared this about, what he's heard from the streets, quote unquote, rumor about LeBron and Bronny was a done deal. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
Someone who reached out to me in the past and was right about LeBron breaking his hand before anybody else had it out there.
2018 NBA Finals.
Before anybody else had it, hit me with it, and he was right. Reached out to me yesterday and late last night and said, I got a little word on the street for you. Bron and Bronny back to Cleveland.
And was he more confident in the breaking of the hand, or is he more confident?
Exactly the same. And the one thing's for sure, the business never really knows where LeBron is moving. The streets do.
Yeah.
A lot of times the streets do.
And so that was courtesy of ESPN Cleveland yesterday. He said that he heard from the streets, quote unquote, LeBron was coming back to Cleveland and that it was done, him and Bronny. And that a lot of times the business doesn't usually know what LeBron's going to do. So maybe that's something to keep in mind today while we go through some of these reports here that came out today, right? So that was from yesterday. And we also heard yesterday the report from Shams Charania about how certain teams are talking to LeBron that are trying to pitch him to come there through voice notes. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
What's the latest in this process?
Hannah, all of the information so far is funneled through agent Rich Paul with LeBron James. And so they've been in a process of gathering information. And one interesting wrinkle that has occurred in the last several days is some of the leading suitors for LeBron James, whether that's a Golden State, a Cleveland, Miami, Minnesota, Philadelphia, some of them have been able to send a voice note to LeBron James via Rich Paul. So whether it's an owner, a president, or a general manager, being able to record a voice note, I'm told, send it to Rich Paul, and that makes its way to LeBron James. This is just a part of LeBron James's process of studying as he makes the decision. He has not been in a rush. There's been no timetable that he's been operating under. I'm told there's been a lot of family time, friends time, golf, of course, over the last couple of weeks. The last two he's spent in the Akron, Ohio area, including with one of his close friends that he grew up with in Brandon Weems, who's now one of the leading executives of the Cleveland Cavaliers under President Kobe Altman. So the process continues, and it's unclear whether Cleveland or Miami have been among the teams that have sent a voice note to LeBron via Rich Paul. Again, they kind of don't need to. They already had him in their buildings in the recent past.
So that was courtesy of ESPN. That was Shams Charania, obviously. And he said there that it doesn't sound like Cleveland. You would think Cleveland or Miami would have to send LeBron a voice, though, because they had him in the buildings in the past. And obviously, LeBron's been hanging out with somebody in the hierarchy in Cleveland, and Brandon Weems, who's a good friend of his from a long time, was hanging out with him over the weekend, last week. So they don't need to send LeBron voice notes. But that's a lot of what we heard yesterday. And Cleveland yesterday was in the 50th percentile in a lot of the prediction markets, right? And it seemed like there was a lot. It just seemed like Cleveland was really starting to separate a little bit. And we heard Brian Windhorst say that a lot of people around the league believe that LeBron to Cleveland seemed basically like it was the leading candidate. All these other teams trying to get LeBron had to basically compete with Cleveland. Now Cleveland was in control. And maybe and I'm not saying that's changed, right? And again, we also heard from the streets as well. And like Emmett Golden said, a lot of times, usually some of the people in the streets know a little more than people in the league sometimes, in the business world. But, today, though, Cleveland now has dipped to 43%. Miami, this is as of 20 minutes ago, Miami is skyrocketing up. And Cleveland's sitting at 43% still. Miami, though, shooting up. And you can see they're slowly trending towards where they could be neck and neck here. Maybe tomorrow, or maybe Cleveland goes back up. Maybe Miami takes a big lead if more something comes out. But why is Miami now all of a sudden in the picture? And I told you guys yesterday, I said from a legacy standpoint, I think there's only two places LeBron can go to that I think he would really consider, which is, I've always thought Golden State was a place he was considering because of California. I now don't think they're in consideration. I think that's something maybe was like a wild card all along that he kind of threw out there a couple months ago. That was thrown out there a couple months ago, and maybe it's somewhere I could play, blah blah blah. But I don't see them as a real threat anymore. But Cleveland and Miami make a lot of sense because, like I said yesterday, I think legacy obviously matters to him. And one thing he wouldn't have to worry about going back to Cleveland or Miami is his jersey's already going to be retired there. He's already won a championship in both of those spots, right? He could just go there and sail off in the sunset. Now, Miami, I also said too, from a basketball standpoint, you could say is better than Cleveland in some areas. Better, obviously Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, Giannis and Bam is a hell of a front court, right? They got some guys like Andrew Wiggins on the perimeter who's won a championship, a good two-way player. Davion Mitchell. They got some pieces, obviously. And they could build out a pretty good team. Obviously, if you add LeBron, you think that team would be a lot pretty good. Now, and it could definitely contend, obviously, not only in the East, but for the championship. But I've always said, though, I never really thought LeBron to Miami was a real thing because of how things ended in Miami. I'm not 100% sure. And I still don't know if Pat Riley really wants to reopen that door. I mean, he always said he left the key under the mat, but, do they really want to get back? Does LeBron really want to go back there? Because like Dan Levitard said on his show earlier in the week, he kind of said like he doesn't believe Pat Riley would give LeBron which he didn't when LeBron was in Miami the first time. LeBron did not get the preferential treatment he got in Cleveland and LA, and that might be something that ultimately turns LeBron off, and that's why he respects him obviously from a basketball standpoint. Always he's taken that Heat culture mantra everywhere he's went, and it helped to grow him more as a player to take him to the next level. But maybe that's not something he wants to go back to and be a part of, especially his last year or two in the league. So. But one thing about Miami, though, you can golf outside all year long. Now, we have heard Rich Paul say, though, that the comment about indoor and outdoor golf will be fine. There's obviously indoor and outdoor golf in Ohio. And so there's a lot of different smoke, though, around Miami. There's been a lot of smoke around Miami. You could see some of the reasons why LeBron may be considering going back to Miami. And if there's another place besides Cleveland he can go to, it would be Miami because, again, from a legacy standpoint, he doesn't have to go there and prove anything. Now, you could say, though, if you added LeBron on Cleveland, you could say, okay, he's going back home and he's going to finish out his career on a team that made it to the Final Four last year. Maybe he helps them get over the hump. But if they don't win, I don't think people would absolutely just criticize him for it. Now, if you go to Miami on a team that just got Giannis, how would people feel about that? Is it the same thing? Is there not as much pressure on LeBron, maybe more on Giannis? Or, I don't know, two guys teaming up on the same team in the offseason at the same time. Maybe people, would you say that they have to go win it? There would be a little pressure there. Maybe LeBron's, feels like maybe Miami would give him the best spot. Again, it's a really good basketball situation, obviously, with the organization. And he's been there and been a part of that. He's always had the admiration for them since he left. But I don't know. Very interesting. But I think some of the reasons why these prediction markets have swayed so much is because reports come out and people react to them instantly. And so a lot of this stuff is very instant. It's not just because the prediction market has something one way doesn't mean like everybody, like, oh, there's some secret inside. These things are moved by reports constantly. When Golden State was the thing 2 weeks ago, Golden State was, up in the odds by, I think, 20% of Cleveland. I think they were 20% up on Cleveland at one point. Then Cleveland became more real. Now Cleveland's had a big lead. Now Miami's getting some smoke today. Now Miami's rising up the thing. So I think all three if I had to say what were the top 3 destinations going into all this, I would have said Cleveland, Miami, Golden State. So those 3 being the trading spots, and number 1 is, and we'll see Miami takes number 1, but I've had some thunder in my bed, but kind of scary for a second. But those 3 spots being the leading candidates for LeBron is not a surprise to me, because they make those, all 3 of those teams. Now Golden State's again more of a wild card, but they all make the most sense. But Brian Windhorst today, he's kind of poured a little more gasoline, I guess. I don't know if he did it on purpose, but on this Miami fire, to smoke. I don't know, I won't say fire, but smoke. And it started this morning on Get Up. So this morning on Get Up, Brian Windhorst talked about Miami more. And Vincent Goodwill, who was on here, makes a case for Miami, for LeBron to sign with the Heat. And Brian gave his commentary about what Vincent Goodwill said. Here's what he had to say.
That's all about. I'm just going to say, as this process has gone on, I've been thinking more and more about LeBron in Miami, because when he went back to Cleveland, it was about making something right. The way it ended in Miami wasn't quite right, and there'd be something about making something right. And look, I would go to Denver. I would seriously consider Denver if I was LeBron. But if it's not going to be Jokic, why not Giannis? That's all about. I'm just going to say.
So he said he's been thinking about Miami more and more, because when LeBron left Miami to go back to Cleveland, it's about going and making something right in Cleveland. And that, when he left Miami, stuff wasn't right, which I told you guys the other day, some of the stuff I've heard that went on, when he was there last year, not getting getting extra tickets when he wanted them, and being told no there. He was upset about that. And, the exit meeting, or when he, how he informed him when he left, that didn't go down well with the Miami Heat. There was a lot of things. And so obviously the infamous cookie incident. So when LeBron left Miami, I wouldn't say they were on the best of terms by any means, right? But I think Pat Riley over the years seems like him and LeBron have kind of, patched some things up a little bit and have mutual respect for each other. And obviously they accomplished what they did, and they got what they wanted out of it. They made 4 straight final appearances and they won 2 championships. So it was a success, right? But is it good enough for those two for LeBron to want to go back? I think Pat Riley, the more I thought about it, probably with the right circumstance would bring LeBron back. Maybe this is the right circumstance. Obviously, just got Giannis. Let's go get LeBron. But will LeBron really be interested in doing that? And I think from the lifestyle standpoint, LeBron may look at Miami and say, man, I could play golf outside all year. It's Miami. My family, maybe my wife wants to live there with my daughter, blah, 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 right? No state tax, right? If you're taking minimum money or less money you ever had in your career, I mean, that probably helps out, not having any state tax. But there's a lot of things that aren't very good. There's a lot of reasons why Miami could be a really good option, and I think if he did end up going there, you'd look at it and say, okay, he's on a contending team in Miami. So makes a lot of sense. But with all the other things, the relationship with Pat Riley and the playing under Pat Riley, is that something LeBron, can they make that work? That's always been my question mark with it. Is that something he really wants to do? And, would he want to choose that over coming home again? I don't know. So I don't know. That's interesting. Brian Windhorst then on the same segment, followed it up, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. He followed it up with this about what else he's heard about Miami, or what he thinks about Miami, and LeBron. And here's what he had to say right here. Give me 1 second as I get this squared away for you guys. Here we go, right here. So here's what he said shortly after what we just heard on Get Up. Here's what he said shortly after in the same segment.
The more I've thought about it, I just think Miami is a more viable option than I was giving it credit for, because I just think, there's reason for, the story makes sense in Cleveland. Obviously, that's the cleanest story. But the story in Miami is there too if he wants it. That roster is not as built out. The Cleveland roster is more built out. Obviously, the Philly roster is more built out from straight basketball. Those rosters make more sense. But if you're going to talk about story, I hear people talking about story. I think there's a story to tell in Miami too. That's all I'm saying.
A nice way to put a bow on his career.
Listen to me now. Believe me later. Vinny's never wrong. Look, I think from the standpoint of basketball,
The
So
more I've thought about it, I just
that
think
was
Miami.
let me get this off. So that was courtesy of Get Up on ESPN Cleveland. You hear what he said, that he's giving Miami more validity than he did, and more, and that's kind of where I'm at with it too. I didn't give them a lot of credence at all. I've always said it, told you guys for a month that I said it's Cleveland or Golden State. I have given Miami a little more credence as well in the last week, but and really after some stuff I heard the last few days, I'm like, okay, maybe there is something there. Kept it on the back of my mind, and now here we are today. And I'm gonna get to more reports here in a minute. So, like him, Cleveland's obviously the cleanest story, but Miami's also, if there's another place he's going to go, if it's not Cleveland, you would say Miami from a legacy standpoint because he's already been there, right? And so, for all the reasons he just mentioned. Now, we heard that. That was this morning. Okay, whatever. Now, this afternoon, though, let's start with Sam Amick, national reporter. Sam Amick went on a radio show, I believe, the sports leader. Or I believe they're a radio show. But anyway, Sam Amick, he's an NBA writer for The Athletic, plugged in nationally. Here's what he said about LeBron and Miami today.
So you can glean a little bit. You know, I had somebody tell me today that one of the other teams believes that Miami's in the lead. Now, I don't know where they're getting that intel, and that's always the tricky part. But so you can glean a little bit. You know, I had somebody tell me today that one of the other teams believes that Miami's in the lead. Now, I don't know where they're getting that intel, and that's always the tricky part. But
now, what kind of stands out to me there in that report is he said he had somebody tell him that another rival, a team trying to get LeBron, say that they believe Miami's in the lead, and he goes, I don't know where they're getting that intel, because you got to remember a lot of the intel that these guys have been sharing with us that they've received for the last week and a half now has been a lot of people believe it's Cleveland. That's been a lot of the motion, and everything's been pointing towards Cleveland. He's been in Cleveland. He was in the Akron area for the last, obviously, 2 weeks or so. He's now in Puerto Rico with some of his boys still that were hanging out with him here, and obviously Draymond Green. But we're hearing now, you're hearing people around the league say maybe it's Miami. They think maybe Miami might be in the lead. And you hear Brian Windhorst say that, you know, he's giving it more credence now than he did, more validity than he did initially. And then we hear this, another team in contention for LeBron saying that, you know, we don't think maybe Cleveland is the front runner. Maybe it's Miami. So interesting, right? Okay. Now let's move on today, going back to Brian Windhorst. And what he said today on ESPN Cleveland that really is having people, I think, why you're seeing Miami kind of go up in those prediction markets right now, I think a lot has to do with this report that came out a little bit ago on ESPN Cleveland. I was actually listening to Emmett Golden today. Emmett Golden today in the show. Shout out to them. But here's what he said a little bit ago.
I just want you to know that I'm hearing stuff in other cities too. I'm not going to say who, but I had somebody on the phone with me today that I consider a good source who was swearing it's a done deal in another city a couple hours ago. Okay. And so I am being very, very cautious. Right now, it's too scattered. I also know how LeBron has operated. They have kept their circle very tight. I understand that you can point to cupcakes and whatnot and say, no, people knew. I'm hearing rumors all day long, and all of them make some level of sense, and all of them make some level of not sense. But I'm just telling you, Cleveland is not the only place where there are rumors.
And that's courtesy of the Next Level. And so what he said there is obviously we heard he heard from somebody very reliable. He said as of a couple hours ago, they swear he's going to another city. I think, in my opinion, he didn't say the city. In my opinion, I think that would be Miami, because I don't think the Golden State thing, I think that lost its traction last week when they basically came out and conceded, basically said, we don't think we're getting LeBron. We're the leading candidate, or we don't think we're the leading candidate. They didn't seem like they believed they were getting LeBron. And a lot of that seemed like it was contentious on them getting Anthony Davis, which we now know Anthony Davis is not getting traded from the Wizards, especially not for Jimmy Butler and a couple first-round picks or whatever they were trying to offer. They were not interested in that. So I think the Warriors have kind of been slightly, eliminated subtly. So the only other team I could see that somebody would say that about would be Miami, because you heard what he said this morning on Get Up, and he said this later on in the afternoon. Add it together, it's probably Miami is who he's talking about. And so maybe he spoke to the same person Sam Amick spoke to. Very possible. But he also said, too, there's a lot of smoke right now. He's not going to come out and say anything definitively because I think right now you're kind of wondering what's like these guys are wondering. This is their job. This is what they do every day. They hear report. They get rumors. Are on the phone all day talking to people. What do you think is leading where? And what he's saying, I think what Sam Amick was kind of saying too, is there's a lot of noise out there right now in the remember what Emmett Golden said earlier in the show, the business world, the business side of things, right? Yesterday we heard from the streets that a lot of people think it's Cleveland. Today from the NBA side of things and people it sounds like it's some people think maybe it's Miami, right? And so, and I think there's another Adam Schefter, who's an NFL guy. He's an NFL insider. He gave a comment on this stuff, which, again, he's not an NBA reporter. He's an NFL guy. But here's what he had to say on a show in Philadelphia, 97.5 Fanatic in Philly. The Fanatic, here's what he had to say.
Minority. I still think that he's going to wind up in Miami. That's my guess. It's just a guess. Just a guess. I had somebody text me at the outset of free agency that you might want to check into LeBron in Miami, like right away. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And so that just has always stayed in my mind that I wonder if this person's going to be right. I also think this, and I don't think it should be underestimated, and I think people are overlooking it. He has become a rabid golf fan, fanatical about it.
Oh.
So where could he play golf all the time? In Miami. It sounds like it's Cleveland, Philadelphia, Miami. And I haven't, not that I'm paying so much attention. I haven't heard anybody bring up the golf point. And honestly, every time I'm on social media, the guy's playing golf, he's watching golf, and this is over the last year or so. Where can he do the most of that? And he can do that in Miami. Minority.
Now, I don't know Adam Schefter's source. Obviously, Adam Schefter's an NFL guy. And maybe Adam Schefter heard from one of his, NBA inside buddies at ESPN or somebody. He probably obviously knows a lot of people in the sports world. But I don't know. But you hear these Miami rumors, they don't sound as definitive as they did when you hear the Cleveland rumors to me. When you hear people bring up Cleveland in the last week and a half, it's like, okay, they're not saying definitively either, but they are saying like a lot of people believe. We've heard other teams literally say through reports, we believe we're competing with Cleveland, against Cleveland. We have to beat Cleveland. Like we heard Mark Stein yesterday say that, what he heard is that other teams that are trying to get LeBron believe Cleveland is the team they got to beat. It's all about Cleveland's been at the top of the pecking order. He was here for the last 2 weeks, right? He's probably taking a little trip down to what she does every year. He takes this little trip. He did it 2 years ago with the same group of guys, with Shion and some of them. Obviously, Draymond joined him now, but he's a free man. He can do whatever he wants in the offseason. But again, a lot of the stuff that felt more definitive was Cleveland, right? And so now all of a sudden today you're hearing more Miami smoke. But then last night, another guy who no name in the NBA world, Bill Simmons, who obviously knows a lot of owners, knows a lot of people in the league. For a while, Bill Simmons was saying Golden State. And I mentioned on the show, I said, that's interesting. I didn't think he was going to go to Golden State all along, but I said, if he's hearing that, maybe there's something there. And I think Golden State was in consideration. I know they were, but because you've heard him brought up and, people around LeBron have even said that it's something he would consider with Steph and blah, blah, blah. But, Bill Simmons comes out yesterday on his show and says this. Take a listen to this.
The thing that happened to poor Golden State is I think they thought they were getting LeBron and potentially AD, and now it's pretty clear they were being used by leverage in the as LeBron goes back to Cleveland.
I don't understand what that leverage translates into. Like, meaning what? Because the teams that are still in the running for him, the Sixers, the Heat,
he's going
and Cleveland.
The Cleveland thing's done.
He's going to Cleveland. Okay.
The thing that happened to
He says the Cleveland thing is done. Like, come on, why are we talking about Miami and Philly? That's just a waste of time. Mind you, this is a guy that said he thought he was going to the Warriors. And what he said, he believes the Warriors were used as leverage. Now, what would the leverage before? Right? What would that leverage before? Would it be to try to get ownership stake with Cleveland? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if you'd have to leverage for that. Maybe. I don't know. for when he retires? Like, is it for certain players he wants on the roster? Is it like, what would the leverage be? Is it to get Anthony Davis paid through Clutch? Is that a lot of it? You know what I mean? Because I think that if I had to be honest with you guys, I do think they were kind of strategic with that. Because either Washington was either going to have to trade Anthony Davis to a play, and if he was going to be traded, he probably would try to dictate his terms. Like, I only want to play in Golden State, let's say, or you pay me my 270 for 4 years. Well, it sounds like they're paying him his money, and they're not trading him. So maybe that's why. Maybe that was the leverage was used. Maybe LeBron was helping his boy get paid. I don't know, but he says though he's hearing now. He says it kind of like he's hearing it's a done deal to come out that brash like that and say it like that. So, again, I don't know. You hear all this Miami stuff today, but one thing that's been consistent all along throughout this entire process, the team that's had the most as they're the team, they're the destination is Cleveland, more than any other team consistently. And so, even when Brian Windhorst came out and mentioned the Miami thing today, even Sam Amick, they didn't say it. They also said it in a way like, yeah, this is what we're hearing, but I don't know. Like Sam Amick said, I don't know where they're hearing the guy that he spoke to from the other team that's trying to get LeBron. I don't know where they're hearing it from. You hear Brian Windhorst say, like, yeah, I'm hearing this from somebody today that's pretty reliable, but I'm not going to give it. It's a lot of smoke right now. Now, why would there be so much smoke around Miami? Could one thing be this? Rich Paul came out on ESPN. I don't know if this was today, I think it was, or maybe yesterday, but it was in the last 24 hours. I know that. And let me find it here. Give me 1 second. I appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. Please like, subscribe, and share. But I think, do I have this on deck? Give me 1 second. My apologies. But maybe I got to go find it again. I'll transition back to this. Give me 1 second on that. But could another reason be as well that maybe the reason why LeBron and Draymond are hanging out together is because not only because they're boys, but maybe what if they team up? And I mentioned this yesterday. I did a show the other day and I talked about it more yesterday. Could LeBron and Draymond be teaming up? What if Draymond, right? What if he leaves the Golden State, like I mentioned? Because Golden State, you look at where they are right now. They're probably not getting LeBron. It seems like they didn't get AD. They struck out. Draymond opted out of his $27 million. Now, he opted out. Now, him not getting that $27 million, I don't know if he really cares. Because when I was listening to the Next Level today on ESPN Cleveland, somebody made a great point on there that I didn't think of, which I should have, which was $27 million in California and San Francisco is $13 million because of FICA. You half it's getting 51% taken and 50% getting taken away right out the bat. So you think of that, right? Now, would Draymond Green, though, actually leave the Warriors to go to Cleveland of all places? Because I said if LeBron went from, I don't care if he went from LA to Golden State, to me, you just can never play for Golden State because I said there's 3 places LeBron I don't believe could ever play. San Antonio, because the rivalry they had with Miami when he was there. Boston, because he was a Laker. And the Warriors, because we all know why. The history there with them and the Cavs. But would Draymond actually do that and have the I would say take some guts to go from Golden State to Cleveland? Because homie's been in Golden State his whole career. His number 23 jersey is going to get retired in Golden State, obviously. That's not even a discussion. He's won 4 championships there. He's been the guy there. He loves the organization, you can tell. But would he leave? Maybe the only way he would consider leaving the Golden State team with LeBron, because they're not teaming up in Golden State, it sounds like. Maybe would it be in Miami? Draymond could say, well, I'll go down to South Beach, no state tax, take a little less money, but we're on a contending team. Maybe Draymond's what if him and LeBron are, maybe think about joining up in Miami with Giannis and Bam? Possibly. Now, again, I've talked about a lot of the LeBron stuff today, how I don't think, I still think it's Cleveland. I got some, and when I hear Bill Simmons say that, again, a lot of the Miami stuff, it seems like a lot of smoke. I don't know how definitive it really is, right? But it doesn't sound as definitive as the Cleveland stuff we've heard. So, but with Draymond Green, though, I do think I'm starting to wonder if Draymond is going to end up where LeBron does, because when I heard Draymond the day after he opted out, and the day after he opted out, people went, "Oh, LeBron and AD are coming to Golden State. It's over. It's a done deal. Whoop de woo." And Draymond opted out to make it happen, which I think Draymond did that for Plan A, which was that. Now Plan A, LeBron and AD kind of got washed out and buried away with not even in a week later, right? So now what's what's he going to do now? What's Golden State going to do? Is Golden State going to bring Draymond Green back on a 20? Are they going to give him $30 million? Now again, $30 million there, probably only $15 million because you're getting half of it taken away from the state. So maybe Draymond thinks, if I'm going to take that kind of a pay cut, because they're not paying me more, and I highly doubt Golden State would even pay him more than what he already was making, because he's older and they're not contending for anything anytime soon. They're kind of going to have to transition pretty quick or pivot the next summer to try to make a splash, unless Draymond wants to sit out and wait a year for that. But or ride it out there for a year and wait till next summer with them. But he only has a certain amount of time left. He's getting older, right? He's not the player he used to be. He's still a very effective, high level. I think a player in terms of when I mean high level and effective on a championship team, Draymond can definitely contribute, no doubt about it, because of his experience, the edge he brings. He can be a force on the front line. Even if he comes off the bench, you give him 20 minutes on a night in a playoff game or more, he's probably going to make an impact in that game. So that you'll love him on your team. You hate going against him, but you would love to have him on your team. And so when Draymond came out on his podcast show, the Draymond Green Show, and talked about why he opted out, I always thought his comments were, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, maybe you guys disagree, but I always feel like some of his comments towards the end of his statement here kind of leaves the door open. He kind of left the door open that, hey, if we don't do something, maybe we'll explore other options elsewhere. Here's what he had to say.
The ownership group has never been one to shy away from doing things that help this team get better. And if I can stand on that same side and have a hand in helping this organization be in a better position, I'm always willing to do that. And so it gives everyone optionality with me opting out, and we'll figure it out from here on what's the best course moving forward. And so feel great about it, and we'll see where it goes from here. But that was kind of at the meat of my decision, at the heart of my decision to opt out. And so now we look forward into free agency and what's to come. But it's an exciting time. Free agency always brings different twists and turns to the NBA, which I think is what makes NBA one of the greatest leagues in the world, is when you can dominate the airwaves and things, and there's no basketball being played, and this is one of them. So that is my decision, or that is why you read about the decision that I was opting out, and now we'll look around and we'll figure out what's best.
Look around and we'll figure out what's best. I feel like the statement there, again, I think what he kind of told you, and I said this the other day when I talked about this, about Draymond possibly coming to Cleveland, is Draymond to me sounded like a guy who, again, he's like he said, it's optionality. And obviously there's the picture of them in Puerto Rico together. But I believe, to me, what Draymond is saying is, I think Plan A for them was the LeBron AD thing. That fell through immediately. That was not happening once the Wizards said they're not doing it. And it sounds like maybe LeBron might have used them for leverage, what people were speculating. But anyways, maybe Plan B is, hey, if we don't make something happen this summer, Draymond, where you are at your age, do we really want to pay you to come back? Does it make sense? Maybe it's best for those two parties to part ways, for the Golden State Warriors and Draymond, where Draymond's at in his career. Maybe he feels like my last shot to go win a championship and retire will probably have to be elsewhere. And shout out to my guy Tony Goodson in the comments. Good to see you, brother. He said, I'm confident Draymond knows he's way more likely to catch another title with LeBron. No chance in Golden State for him and Steph. And yeah, because 100%. And that's what I'm getting at. It's like Draymond may be looking, Golden State may be looking at this like, do we really want to pay this guy this kind of money to come back? Because if Draymond goes back and they're not a real contender, he's probably going to demand more money. Again, because mind you, he's in San Francisco. Half of that's getting taken away. So does he really want to play there? Do they want to bring him back? I think it's trending towards maybe not. And when you hear him talk right there, it sounds like a guy that left the door open for that possibility. And I think that possibility is becoming more real by the day from you just look where things are trending and progressing, right? That was done the day after he opted out, which was almost 2 weeks ago. Since then, the Warriors have not done anything substantial. They brought back Kristaps Porzingis. They've done nothing. I mean, they've literally have done nothing to make themselves a contender in the West. I would, Lakers have done way more than them. All we've heard out of Golden State is crickets. I mean, that's all we've got from them. There ain't been nothing else going on there. We're just sitting around hoping LeBron comes here magically. And so, again, Draymond, though, what if Draymond, because here's the thing I think about with the Draymond thing is, would this guy really come to Cleveland? Because mind you, just like I said, all the reasons why I think LeBron going to Golden State would have been a bad idea because of the Cavs thing and what happened in the past. Draymond going to Cleveland, man, how would Warriors fans feel about that? Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he could say, I gave you guys everything and we tried, and maybe the Warriors, he'll make it out where, they'll make it out like, they mutually parted ways. And at that point he could say, well, I can go anywhere. I mean, my options are limited. You know what I mean? Because he may say, I want to go play with LeBron and this is my best shot to win. Let's say in Cleveland, or maybe it's Miami, but let's say it's Cleveland. He may say that's my best shot, so very interesting. But, going back to the Miami thing today and kind of put a bow on that, right? Is LeBron actually plotting to go to Miami? He might be. I'm not ruling it out. I'm giving it. I'm like Brian Windhorst. What he said, I'm giving it much more credence than I did initially. Now, there's a lot of reasons why I'm still skeptical it's actually going to happen, and a lot of those I've named some stuff from stuff that happened when he left there. Yes, they can patch things up. Yes, things can be kumbaya now, but I'm not 100% sold on that. I'm not saying I can. I have the right to change my opinion when I gather new information, but as of right now, I think if he didn't go to Cleveland, he probably wouldn't end up in Miami. But ultimately, I think Cleveland's still the spot he wants to end up at. And again, you hear yesterday. Well, no, let's backtrack a little bit. When all this started back on June 30th, the team you heard initially was the Warriors. It was LeBron and AD to the Warriors. That quickly fell apart as the week went on. And then as for the last week and a half, it was the one consistent team. We heard Philly pop up, right? We heard Miami get brought up a little more. The Warriors are still creeping around a little bit, right? But with the prediction market, you look at that. Cleveland had a pretty big lead for a while since like last weekend up until today. And the one constant was, and one consistent team that constantly getting, like I said earlier, a finger pointed towards them, that's the destination was Cleveland. Not just through other teams trying to get LeBron that have come out and said, we believe we're competing with Cleveland, but also we've heard from the streets. We've heard the rumors from the streets. We've heard all these different things that a lot of people believe it's Cleveland. And that's been the one consistent. Now, all of a sudden today, there's all this Miami smoke out of nowhere. And Miami's been lingering around, but now today you feel like there's been a lot more Miami. Now, what all can this also mean? And I told you guys this, because a lot of people wonder, when's this guy going to announce, right? And the odds for the announcement right now, as of before I recorded the show yesterday, we've been keeping this. This is a new prediction now. When's he finally going to announce it? Before the show, as of today, before July 19th, which would be not this Sunday, next Sunday, it's 57%. And in a week from today, on the 17th, it's 48%. So interesting. Okay, so no, that's where I wanted. When's he going to announce? And I told you guys, I said, well, I think part of the reason why he's dragging this out a little bit is because part of it, I believe, he's filming. We all know he's filming a documentary right now. He's had camera crews following him around everywhere. The longer you drag it out and create more drama, the better it is for the content. You're creating content for the documentary. And like Brian Windhorst said today, and other people have kind of stated, do I think LeBron has an idea where he's going? Absolutely. I think I think he knows where he's going. But he's enjoying his last, like people perhaps said privately in public, he's not rushing this. And he's in control of where he's going to go. And I don't think he's not in a hurry. And I think he's kind of enjoying this, being in the spotlight like this. This is the decision part 4. This will be the last one. And I think he's just kind of enjoying it, just riding it out. And it's better content for the documentary as well. Which again, if you're going to take less money where you go, you're going to make a lot of that money back through the documentary. So you got to make sure that's pretty good too. So I think that's a lot of this as well. Maybe he is also hearing from other teams just to make sure, like, this is what I want to do. Let's say Cleveland's always been there's a team that he always wanted to go to, and he's just saying, I want to hear some other teams, feel it out, just to make sure that's exactly what I'm going to do. But again, I think a lot of the smoke still has been towards Cleveland, but a lot of this others, or I would say a lot of the signs I believe have been pointing towards Cleveland. And now a lot of the other smoke, though, all these other teams getting brought up, right? Again, it was Golden State, then it was Philly, now it's Miami. Maybe that's just part of the documentary. Maybe that just creates more. And Rich Paul made this statement a little bit ago on NBA Today that I was trying to play earlier. I got it back for you guys, that I thought was very interesting. Let's take a listen.
Pitches, I don't know about pitches, but listen, I think there's communication from players directly to him, and obviously I handle it from an organization perspective. But look, I think it's admirable the way he sought after today, and it's a testament to his hard work. And so we're taking this thing very seriously, but at the same time, we're having fun. I think it's great for the fans, but this is something that it's his decision, and he's earned the right to make whatever decision he wants. And so I just tell him, take your time, and whenever you're ready, just let me know.
We're having fun, he said. It's great for the fans. It's going to be good for that documentary too, isn't it? It's going to be fun for that too, right? I don't know. Thought that was interesting. But again, as of right now, I still believe Cleveland is going to be where he ends up. And again, the one definitive thing I've heard that's been really definitive in the last 24 hours has been Bill Simmons. And I'll play that again for you guys. Here's what Bill Simmons said again yesterday on his show, who for a while was saying Golden State, but he came out yesterday and said this.
The other thing that happened in poor Golden State is I think they thought they were getting LeBron and potentially AD, and now it's pretty clear they were being used by leverage in the as LeBron goes back to
But
Cleveland.
I don't understand what that leverage translates into, like meaning what? Because the teams that are still in the running for him, the Sixers, the Heat,
he's going
and Cleveland.
The Cleveland thing's done.
He's going to
The Cleveland thing is done, he said. And I just keep going back to this. Give me one second, let me mute this on my end. But I keep going back to this. His guy. And I told you guys for 2 years the relationship about him and Brandon Williams. I told you guys 2 years ago when I started telling you LeBron coming back to Cleveland, finish career is going to be a real possibility, that I always brought up Brandon Williams' name. And I brought him up 2 years ago. And I put that short out on my channel recently. You go back in time. It was May 15th of 2024 is the first time I brought him up. Because I knew who he was. I'm from Akron. But anyways, just leave it at that. But anyway, that relationship is going to play a big factor. And I think it's played a huge factor. And like Rich Paul said on the whiteboard thing he did, that's a big feather in the cap. And so you look at that, right? He's been out and he was seen with him last week and didn't hide it at all. Like they're out to eat together. They're out at the karaoke night last Friday night at House 330, LeBron spot in Akron. They were at his restaurant Buckets in Akron. They're not, I don't think, that like Sham Sharani said earlier about the voice memo, the voice notes. I highly doubt Cleveland sent LeBron a voice note. The guy's sitting right there. He could just go talk to him. So, I don't think he has to. And then also the guy on the far right, who I've been around a lot, recently because we played him in basketball, stuff like that. He's coaches at St. V at the high school level. Is Romeo Travis. He's now LeBron's lifelong friend. Shout out to Travis. But he said, or they said he's helping the Cavs summer league coaching staff. Interesting. So I don't know. Again, a lot of the dominoes to me still point towards Cleveland. And then I also, some of these older reports, everybody's wondering about James Harden, him and LeBron, would that be a turnoff? And, Rich Paul said in that whiteboard thing that, James Harden was kind of, I don't say he was a negative himself. He just said, them not having Garland when, number one, Rich Paul in some ways kind of helped get Garland out of here because he's his agent. And so I don't know about that, but I don't I didn't really pay attention to a lot of that because they were the ones that kind of got him up out of here. And, Donovan wanted James. So I and LeBron and we know LeBron and Donovan and James Harden have been in like a text conversation allegedly from rumors from Scoop Robinson since going back to the season. And then also these old reports were brought up about LeBron on a quote from James Harden on James Harden last year. And he said, quote, simple. He's a great player who loves to play the game, plays at his own pace. He won at every stop he's been at one point where he was giving guys 50-point triple-doubles, 60-point triple-doubles. He just plays the game the right way. And so LeBron has always respected Harden's game. Then he also, this is a report from last year, or 2 years ago, excuse me, when they still had Anthony Davis on the team before they traded for Luka. It said the type of player that James would be willing to make a financial sacrifice for, which, mind you, he's making a financial sacrifice where he's going now, would be an established veteran playmaker like James Harden or Klay Thompson, or an established big man to play alongside Anthony Davis, such as Jonas Valanciunas. And this is from 2 years ago, obviously, when they had AD before that. But there has been some LeBron Harden smoke traction there in the past that, he wants to play with a veteran point guard kind of guy like that. Now, obviously, the James Harden we saw in the playoffs, wasn't a great outing. I think he would even say that. But, maybe LeBron thinks you add me, everybody's healthier. We get a whole off season together. James did get put on the team late in the season, and they didn't have a lot of time to really, they kind of figured it out on the fly here in Cleveland. Maybe with a full off season and a full training camp, and they got a whole season to work together to grow towards playoffs. Maybe they believe they can do something. So I found that interesting. And then again, all this other stuff too with his guys. Brandon Williams up in there, and again, there's been a lot of the signs have all pointed towards Cleveland. I think the big thing to look after is Draymond Green. If Draymond, that's the one guy I'm wondering, will this guy really leave Golden State to come to Cleveland? Because I think it's becoming more real, it seems, by the day. I really do. And so that's fascinating as well. But that's my thoughts on all this LeBron Miami thing. Not ruled it out. I think I'm giving it much more credence than I did initially, but I would still say it's going to be Cleveland. And I think LeBron, obviously, with Cleveland, it's the cleanest story. And you remember what Brian Windhorst said, too? I thought he made a good point. Cleveland's roster is kind of more, it's more built out for LeBron than Miami's is. And it makes you wonder, if Brandon Williams has been here in the organization as long as he had, and they made that trade for James Harden, and we just read the quotes how LeBron is like James Harden. Some people could say, you call it a tinfoil hat, would say, hey, maybe they've been building this team out for LeBron. That they had a competitive team, and that eventually one day they'll maybe try to bring him back, and he'll fit right in the mix. And that LeBron maybe was like, yeah, I like those guys over there. I don't know, just saying. But, maybe they've been building this team out for LeBron in some ways too. People may speculate that. It's just speculation, right? Not saying anything's going on collusion, but, hey, the agents know everything. But anyways, Rich Paul, again, when he knew, I don't think they had an issue. I don't think Darius Garland had a problem leaving Cleveland. And I don't think Cleveland had a problem trading him for James Harden. Okay. And I'm one of the guys who's one of the GMs, or the assistant GM at the time, sits with Kobe Altman through that process, was Brandon Williams. So I don't know. You guys make your own assumptions. But anyways, yeah, that's where I'm at with it. But I don't know. Fascinating stuff. Hopefully we get an announcement this weekend. Doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. But, let me know. And if you want to call and leave a voicemail and let me know where you think LeBron's going to end up and when you think he'll announce it, you can call the show and leave a voicemail at 216-532-5550. Again, 216-532-5550. You can call now, call after the show, and leave a voicemail where you think LeBron is going to end up and when he'll announce it. Again, 216-532-5550. Call today. But anyways, get through some of these comments here before I wrap up the show. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Shout out to my guy, 1,000 Eyes. He said, no chance LeBron goes to Miami. Bill Simmons already confirmed he's going to Cleveland. We played that clip from Bill Simmons, obviously, but I hope Bill Simmons is right. My guy Goodson, always good to see you, my brother. I know I'll see you here soon. I'll see. We got the thing getting planned. But anyways, I have a hard time believing that he would put Cleveland fans on the edge of the cliff again. Doesn't exactly bring back warm and fuzzy feelings for anyone. It was a misstep on his behalf the first go around. I do believe in for his documentary's sake to keep everyone on their toes. To be honest with you, Goodson, that's kind of where I'm at with it, with all that. I agree with everything you said. I just would have a hard time as well him doing that again. I think a lot of this, again, we heard Rich Paul say a little bit ago, they're having fun with it, and it's great for the fans and everything. And it is. It's great content for us. It's great for everybody involved. People are constantly looking, what's the next rumor, blah, 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 right? And that's why, there's a lot of smoke out there right now. A lot of, you're trying to weave out what's truth and what's not. But I think a lot of what you said there, Goodson, I think you're on the money with everything, to be honest with you. He said, there you have it. Cleveland is done. The Miami's talk is wishy-washy. Bill spoke it with conviction. Sure did sound like conviction, too. I agree with that. LeBron is coming home to Cleveland, and he's bringing Green with him. That would be wild. Now, LeBron coming back, obviously, that ain't going to surprise. But if Draymond Green comes with him, that is... I never saw that coming, to be honest. I would still be surprised if that happens. Turnt Tally Mulatto, he said Miami. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for tuning in as always. Tribe Double O said Richard Jefferson said he already knows, but he won't say anything. No way RJ would tease us like that if he knew James was going elsewhere. Do I think LeBron told those guys on that trip definitively where he was going? I want to say in the past, I think he would have, I think yes. Now I'm going to say no because of the documentary. I think he's trying to, and these guys work in the media, some of them. I think they may have an idea of what he's thinking, and maybe that's where they're concluding. Maybe he did tell Richard Jefferson that. Do I think Richard Jefferson likes to troll a little bit? Yeah. But I think that's what he was doing on that podcast show a little bit. But I'm sure these guys have an idea, but they're not going to come out and really say it because of all the interest, the relationship. Everybody know, whatever they say, people are going to take it as the holy grail. You know what I mean? Channing Frye came out and said something about Cleveland, and he came out and said something about the Warriors, and everybody said, "Oh, he's not going to either of those teams because Channing Frye said so." His friend, I don't. These people work in the media. It's content over, everything era now. Let's be honest, and I think they may have an idea what he's thinking, but I don't think they really know where he's going. I think now they don't because of what he's doing right now as well. I'll tell you guys this: people I've talked to that usually would know the answer around this behind the scenes in Akron that are very close to him. Some of them don't even know. All they've said is he's taking his time, and they mentioned some other things that happened last week. But other than that, he's keeping it very sealed and tight. That I do know. Boom, done deal. Shout out to A Dizzle. He said RJ was 100% joking. I watched the show live. He was making fun of people thinking who knew everything. Yeah, I think he was trolling too. It is fun. Everybody's an insider. Everybody's got something. There's always one thing about all the stuff with LeBron. There's always different. Everybody's got a source and blah blah blah. The cupcake thing yesterday. That came out like it sounded like it was like a definitive. Like I heard this, and all of a sudden it was I reposted something, and it seemed like that might have just been like trying to get more traction. But I don't know, but whatever. Brian Martin, if LeBron does not come home, he will never be able to come back to Cleveland, come back to Ohio. He's making drama for the documentary. Hey, I was thinking that too earlier. I'm like, if he did go to Miami after all this again, how would people in Cleveland feel? Yes, he won a championship. It'd be a little different in some ways this time, but how would people still feel? You drag this out like this and you go to Miami again. I don't know. I think some fans would be pissed and they wouldn't be very, welcoming when he came back in the building. If he came back in a different Miami Heat jersey, I'll just leave it at that. But it's Draymond's decision this time. LeBron is always open to help friends make a better situation for themselves. I can't see LeBron burning Cleveland twice. Yeah, I don't either, because ultimately the stuff with Miami was more with the organization. People in Miami, I don't think had an issue. I think people understood when LeBron left. Here, he won you 2 championships. It was Dwayne Wade's town to begin with. It was Dwayne Wade's town when he left. It's Wade County. LeBron came there to help them get over the hump and was obviously the biggest piece in that. But LeBron doesn't really owe anything. There's not the ties to Miami like there is to Cleveland. It's a lot deeper than basketball in Cleveland, like he's even said on the record. So, yeah, I would be a little. I'm be honest, Goodson. I would be stunned as well if he did it twice. But that's just me. Draymond is not leaving Golden State. I think people are reaching with that one. Maybe so, but when I played his comments earlier again, when he explained why he opted out, and I played those comments a little bit ago, I think he did leave the door. I think Plan A for them was to go get LeBron and AD. That's not happening. So now they're gonna have to sit back and kind of consider, like, because again, he opted out of $27 million. $27 million in San Francisco, you're probably making 13 of that with the tax and FICA in California. I don't in San Francisco. I don't know if Draymond may believe, A, if we're not going to be contending, we're not going to be a real contender next year. I want to make more money at least, or because I've been what I've done for the organization. That might be A. And then B, would they actually pay him that? I think it'd be kind of foolish for them to overpay for him because what's the point? I mean, unless they just want to keep him around, which maybe that's the case. That's their way of thanking him. But and then also C, what if Draymond thinks, well, I'm going to take less? If I'm technically making 27, but I'm only making 13, 14, 15. What if I just take that and go somewhere else and be on a contending team? So I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors that could play in there where he may shift. I'm not saying I would still be surprised if he didn't end up back in Golden State. But as the days have went on, I'm becoming more and more open to him actually possibly leaving Golden State and even coming to Cleveland, which I would have never thought. If shout out to 25, he said BD5XL. He said if LeBron goes to Cleveland, that'll be considered a super team. I don't know if a super team, but they'd be a pretty damn good team, I believe. I think LeBron is what they've been missing a lot of, like I mentioned. I think they finally each year they got closer and closer. This year they finally got to the conference finals, but they were, like Dan Gilbert said, they're nowhere where they need to be still. I think what they need is a full offseason together with James Harden and a full season to build up towards the postseason. But also they need a LeBron James. They need somebody to put next to Donovan, that Superman to Batman, that can help him how to win, who brings all the intangibles that they've missed, the leadership, right, the accountability, I believe, and somebody that has the know-how of how to win. And so I think they're missing LeBron, is what I believe. They need that guy. If LeBron goes to Cleveland, Philly, Golden State, or Miami, that'll be considered a super team. Yeah, I think I think Golden State would be an old team. I think they have the names, but I think they would be really old and not a lot of depth. Now, Miami, that would be a dirty damn good team. Obviously, the front court, that's him, Bam, and Giannis. Him, Bam, and Giannis. That's a hell of a front court with Andrew Wiggins, who's not a bad player himself, a two-way guy. Philly would be really good on paper. Now, can they stay healthy with Embiid and all that? That'd be interesting, but that's a damn good team as well. And then I think Cleveland, he's an easy plug and play here. And I think he fits I think he fits alongside a lot of the pieces they already have. Mobley, he's worked more on his game, stretching out, being a, versatile big man, which LeBron has always played well with at the 4, active 5, and Jared Allen, who doesn't need the ball in his hands to be successful. You got a guy in Donovan create his own shot. Same thing with James, so I think he fits in pretty well here. In my opinion, says A Dizzle, I would be upset if he chooses somewhere else, but he's always welcome back as a champion and for what he does outside of basketball. I don't see Mitchell signing unless he was fully confident in team's moves in future. LeBron has to be a part of that. And that's an interesting point as well. With Donovan, that's a good point, Goodson. I think, because a lot of people thought he was going to wait till next summer, to sign his contract, because he would have had $80 more million and he had a no trade clause. But he went ahead and signed now. Now you got a player option, you got a trade kicker. And I think if you want to look at it from that standpoint, I think the contract he signed this offseason makes more sense if you're going to add LeBron. Because down the road, when LeBron's gone, and maybe after a year or two in the teens, you see where they're at, he could be moved then. And he gets a trade kicker. And he has a player option as well. He could opt out. So he left himself optionality for post-LeBron as well. Not saying he's going to leave or anything like that. Who knows what that's far down the road. But I think you make a whole point. If LeBron wasn't coming, I think he probably would have. Why wouldn't you take the extra money next summer, the $80 million, and the no trade clause? But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe the Jaylen Brown situation maybe made him think, I need to just, let's just get the bag right now and just be secure. But I do think, though, I don't know. I do think that makes a lot of sense. Dave, good to see you. Said, expect the unexpected. Wouldn't be shocked to see LeBron in Cleveland and his son traded there as well. Draymond, not so sure that's going to happen. Probably back to Golden State for him. Yeah, I mean, like I said with Draymond, Yeah, and like you said, expect the unexpected. You never know, but like I said with Draymond, I never thought he was leaving Golden State. I would still say if I had to bet, he's going back to Golden State. But I do think, though, like I said, I thought he left the door open as an optionality, like you said. And as time goes on, and he's with LeBron and all, I'm just I don't know. I'm leaning more towards he could leave there, and actually he could end up here. So I don't know. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Shout out to OPM 1300. Did you see Sham's post? Which one? Well, you talking about within the last hour? Because I have not, because I've been doing this. But if you should I go look it up? Maybe I'll check it real quick. But thank you for letting me know that. But shout out to all you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share as always. And I see what you're saying right here. Okay, so this is interesting. This is Miami related. Has nothing to do with LeBron, but I'll share this on the screen. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me know this, OPM. Because this is wild. I would not have seen this till I got off the show. So I guess we'll close the show with this. I'm just going to give my initial reaction to this. I'm going to read it first. Again, we don't know all the details, so I'm not going to get too much into this. But according to Shams Charania, this was at 5:39. So we were sitting here reading chats. This just came out. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero got into a physical altercation in Las Vegas on Friday, which is today, in which Adebayo struck Hero. Sources tell ESPN. So that's obviously a big story. You can see it's already got 1 million views. This is going to be taken off. Okay, where did this happen at? Was it in a public setting? Will be my initial question. And is Hero hurt? Is there video footage of this that's going to come out that's going to be leaked to TMZ? This could become something that's not going to be good. Is this something that the league may have to get involved in, that maybe suspend some guy? I don't know. The altercation occurred. Okay, here we go. Now we know where it's. There's more. It's unfolding as we're talking. The altercation developments are unfolding as we're talking. The altercation occurred at a practice court in Las Vegas hotel this morning. Sources said, starting with Adebayo approached Hero about his comments the guard made critiquing the center on social media after the 7-year run in Miami ended. So Bam went up to him and said, "I'm standing on, what's that stuff you were critiquing me about on social media?" And he obviously sounds like they got into an altercation about it. And, and it ended up in Adebayo punching him in the face. So, or maybe not in the face. He struck him. So I'm assuming, I'm just assuming it's in the face because, Bam's up here. Hero's a little bit down here. He's 7-footer. So I'm assuming here to there, but I could be wrong. But anyways, but yeah. So that's a new development that just happened within the last 10 minutes. Again, breaking news. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero got into a physical altercation in Vegas. It was at a practice court in Las Vegas. Obviously, at the Summer League going on there right now. So at a Vegas hotel, they got into it. Bam approached Hero about comments the guard made critiquing him on social media after the 7-year run ended in Miami. Obviously, Tyler Hero got traded to Milwaukee and the Giannis deal. And so they got into an altercation. So that's going to be fascinating to see what happens and where this unfolds. I'm sure more stuff will be coming out here shortly. Maybe you have a video of it that gets leaked to TMZ, or what's the league's reaction to this going to be? Well, it's Miami. This is going to be fascinating. And I'm sure this will be the talk of the NBA tonight. So fascinating stuff. Yeah, appreciate you again, OPM, for letting me know about that in the chat. Thank you so much. Uncle Joey said, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis introduction is next Tuesday in Miami. Might LeBron James be next? Maybe. I still think he'll be a Cleveland Cavalier, but again, like I said, I didn't think Miami was as real a possibility as when this started, but I think now looking at it now and sitting back and looking at all this stuff and analyzing it from LeBron's perspective, I think Miami would, if he didn't go to Cleveland, I think he would be in Miami. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, we're going to keep you guys up to date because I'm sure more stuff is going to come out tomorrow, and maybe this weekend and obviously in the Mondays. So like, subscribe, and share. And if you like this content and you want to keep up with all things LeBron, we'll come up here and discuss it. Please like, subscribe, and share. And also, we're going to be shifting towards, once this is all wrapped up with LeBron, heading towards football season here, our bread and butter, covering the Browns and Shador this year, and high school football in Ohio and all that stuff that I love to do. And Mike will be back on the Professional Fan as well. So we'll be getting his show rolling here soon again and for football season. So please like, subscribe, share, and help us out. Mike and mine would really appreciate it. And and all my guys, Jersey and Chris and Dan and all them that come up here for football season as well. So like, subscribe, and share and all that good stuff. Shout out to A Dizzle later, everyone. Appreciate you, A Dizzle, for tuning in. I don't think Pat Riley really want to deal with LeBron again. That's funny you say that 1205. I've kind of had that same I don't think both sides. I don't know if they want to coexist again. That's why I'm not 100% sold on the Miami thing. But I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I think you might have some. I think you might be right there. And I've shared some of the stories that happened, allegedly. But people have said his last year in Miami, that I just don't. I don't know. I was to be a little surprised, but we'll see. You never know. I wouldn't rule it out completely. But again, if you want to call and leave a voicemail, and where you think LeBron will go, and you want to share where you think LeBron will go and when he'll announce it, call 216-532-5550. Again, 216-532-5550. You can call now, leave a voicemail, or after the show, and I'll play your voicemail in the next show. We've had a couple viewers call, leave a voicemail, and both have said they thought we had a guy in Los Angeles. We had a person in Cleveland. They both think he's going to Cleveland, and you can share that, where you think he's going. If you have an inside tip, if you have some smoke, you heard some inside information, you can stay anonymous. You can call the hotline and leave it there as well, 216-532-5550. We'll share it on the show. So call now or call after the show. Appreciate you, 25. Said good live. Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for tuning in as always, and shout out to all you guys. And love all you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm out of here. Gone.